I've read posts and articles and watched videos about the intentions that Elementor has in an effort to improve the output of their builder so that the millions of websites that get built with it are accessible. That's part of the reason to use it, right? To make the building process easier and not have to worry about all of those base technical needs. But somewhere along the way, things just got sort of off course. I'm not sure if where they are now is what they were talking about when they had originally started talking about improving accessibility and awareness around accessibility, or if things got redirected at some point. But either way, they released their new plugin in March of 2025, which is just an existing overlay plugin that they've rebranded, which is what really started my questioning of the direction they're headed in. Their website boasts that the future of the plugin will include a site scanner and a remediation flow and some kind of screen reader and widget usage analytics, but there are currently tools to do all of those things. I'd love for Elementor to implement these things, and since so many people are using it to build sites, this gets people on board with testing and learning how to fix issues. But there are still basic issues that need to be fixed within Elementor's code output. There are still blog posts about how to fix broken skip links and add a pause button to sliders. So many of their components need workarounds or fixes that have to be done on every individual site or opted into. And it's just baffling to me that their answer is to promote and encourage people to install this overlay plugin and then go about their business. They haven't reiterated their intention in fixing their accessibility issues in the builder, in the code output, or in their theme. And they have now entered the world of bragging about using new features like CSS sliders and adding new things to their builder that aren't even accessible. It's the same with Divi, for example. They're doing a complete rebuild of their platform, starting over. Why is accessibility not something you're making sure happens? Why are you waiting until it's launched to then go back and make potentially breaking changes to something that you've worked for so long on when you had this perfect opportunity? They're going to be spending the next few years supporting this new version, the migration efforts, fixing bugs, but then they're also going to go back and fix all of the accessibility problems too. I have very major doubts that that's going to happen. It's important to start with accessibility, even at the testing phase, even in beta. It means less work in the long run, and it means everyone can test the site or platform to let you know if there are issues. But when you have such a huge market share, it's even more important to incorporate accessibility, to include accessibility experts, and to talk about and promote accessibility responsibly. These companies have this huge opportunity to impact so many websites, to make them so much better to use, but they can't even get skip links right, let alone making sure that animations play based on user preferences or anything else that might impact their users. It's so disappointing. Elementor has decided to ignore every accessibility expert and disabled person's recommendations and pleas and upcoming laws and ongoing and recently settled lawsuits. They've released their plugin apparently as a way to help sites now, as they continue to work on accessibility. But from where I sit, now they're dedicating resources to supporting a plugin that isn't needed or wanted or recommended and shouldn't be used. Put those resources to built-in accessibility. You don't want to make people install another plugin for a baseline accessible experience that not every site is going to install, let alone know about. So let's break this down a little bit further. Things seem to be going well, Elementor-wise. In 2024, there was even a post in the Accessibility Facebook group discussing specific issues around their mega menu. In the Global Accessibility Awareness Day showcase for last year, they talked about their improvements to semantic HTML, HTML attributes, keyboard navigation, a workflow for new features. They said they were committed. It ranked second in Equalize Digital's overview of the best and worst page builders. And even into 2025, they were making accessibility improvements like incorporating landmarks and adding ARIA when it was needed. So that brings us to their accessibility overlay plugin. By making their own solution, they're giving people the impression that these tools are good to include. If these companies are creating their own solutions for this and encouraging us to install them and even have other people talking about how good it is, surely it's going to help people who come to our site. Elementor has talked about how they're now committed to accessibility. So does this mean it's now a good idea to install the overlay? Maybe they know something that I don't. Let me install this because this big company that has demonstrated their commitment to accessibility is recommending. No, the disabled community has not changed their mind on what their needs are, and accessibility experts have not changed their recommendations. Then you have the head of WordPress relations at Elementor, Miriam Schwab, posting about demoing a CSS-only carousel for Elementor that you can try, play around with, and get the code for. But CSS-only carousels are not accessible, and they should not be implemented on sites yet. I commented on the LinkedIn version of this post and never got a response. And when I brought this up in the WordPress Accessibility Facebook group, a different Elementor person went into more detail about it being experimental, and they have intentions to use it and not have to rely on JavaScript workarounds and make it natively accessible. And all of that is great, but that's not what the post said. When you have a huge platform and you're talking about new features, you have a responsibility to make sure it is clear what you're talking about. The post clearly talks about the new feature and integrating it with the builder, nothing about it being experimental or not accessible. And with the recent launch of a totally misguided plugin, there's nothing to make me think that they'll be changing the way they communicate. And I have no confidence that they'll handle the integration of a CSS-only inaccessible slider into their builder before they should. They have a blog post about making your site accessible that mentions using ARIA labels, but it doesn't warn against using them incorrectly or overusing them. And it also mentions that it requires the pro version of the plugin, which means a ton of Elementor users are not going to be able to implement ARIA. And their form recommendations don't mention adding labels at all. Of course, it mentions an accessibility overlay plugin, which used to be called one-click accessibility, and it gives the users options, but it doesn't make the site itself accessible. And it often ends up making sites not accessible either by not working or by becoming a barrier itself. They have a few other posts on their blog talking about various accessibility aspects. One of them does mention labels, but people aren't going to read through every single blog post. They're reading one and they move on. And some of the posts talk about things like spacing, and then other accessibility posts don't have proper spacing themselves. Of course, there are challenges when it comes to large teams and multiple people posting blog articles, but it's important to look at these things as part of the larger picture. If the only thing about all of this was some inaccurate blog posts, a simple content review would fix it. But when it's part of a larger trend, it's concerning, especially when they have their accessibility page centered around their widget plugin and not the accessibility of their overall product. And then they start writing blog posts with what is probably unresearched, unverified AI content, and it's just so disappointing to see. They were notified on May 26th that characterizing the accessibility checker as an overlay is incorrect. They said they were going to fix it, and as of June 25th, they still have not fixed it. They also put their own plugin, Elementor, as an accessible plugin, which doesn't seem to fit the bill. It's a builder plugin that does not contribute in any way to making a more accessible site. There's just so much wrong with this post and have taken no care to understand accessibility at all. And this post was published after the launch of their accessibility widget and leads me to believe is part of the direction that they're trending in. They're apparently building features into their plugin like an assistant, which again is super helpful, but it's going to be biased. It's going to focus on user issues and not issues within their platform. They start with step one as downloading the plugin. Step one is using a tool to build sites that understand how to build sites right. If a site builder doesn't make an accessible website out of the box, it's broken. You wouldn't use a tool that made your site look broken, and you shouldn't use a tool that makes your site's code broken. Their own accessibility widget page isn't even accessible. If the page talking about their accessibility tool isn't accessible, what are we even doing? I've done a quick audit of the page that I'm talking about, which you can find a link to in the description. I'm not saying to not use a page builder, but understand you're going to need to do a bunch of extra setup work for a lot of these builders, which is nothing new, but it's disheartening to see a company like Elementor start to move in the right direction, give us all hope, say the right things, only to pivot in the direction of everyone and everything else. It concerns me that they're focusing on tools for the end user, including tools that no one has asked for, instead of fixing their builder and their code. Elementor has a huge market share. So what do we do about it? As you come across issues, bother Elementor about them. When you get site audits or visitors or developers bring up issues that you're seeing and you can't fix them, or you have to create workarounds for them that should be working out of the box, bring it up to Elementor. And we're not just trying to make sure that the end website is accessible. The tool to build the site should be accessible too. If there's someone on your team that has a problem with using the Elementor tool, tell the Elementor team every time, multiple times. The more people that are asking for change, the more likely it is to happen. Because it's the right thing isn't going to work on a corporation, but because our customers keep asking for it is way more likely to work. So this is my call to action for you and for everyone. Bother Elementor, bother Divi, bother the people building the tools that are building the websites that we use every day. And maybe we'll be able to impact a lot of people as a result.